right, and I think we're live. Took a bit, uh, took a bit of time with the setup, but we're live streaming for the first time in I think a month. I'm not sure. It could be 3 weeks. I haven't checked. I did upload a video. I think I uploaded a short before then, but yeah. So 3 weeks ago was the last time I live streamed. I figured I'd get back to it. See, there's already a couple of viewers here. Hey, Irene. Yeah, it was a long time. I get into these periodic. Don't upload anything for a while, and then I feel the need to get back in touch. I think I have little under 500 subscribers now, 487. So it's good to see that YouTube hasn't completely culled my subs. That's one of the reasons I wanted to make a video today, was to highlight the fact that David Wood's channel, Act 17 Apologetics, they seem to be going after him again, the YouTube Trust and Safety Council. It's one of these Orwellian administrative groups within Google that their purpose seems to be to just, hi Alejandro, their purpose seems to be to censor any non-right thinking individual or organization that has access to YouTube, to basically quarantine them, and I think the Trust and Safety Council is basically a consortium of different left-wing organizations and pro-censorship organizations. I think one of them is the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League. I think the SPLC, as disgraced as they are, I think they might also be part of that little coven. So these are all groups where YouTube content is sifted through by these people. Well, the last people you would want making any sort of decision on what to allow and disallow. Yeah, he's very controversial, and I think one of the main reasons he's been repeatedly subjected to YouTube censorship is just because of the volume of false and illegitimate flags that go up from Muslim groups and people like Ali Dawah and the famous critic of ultra crepidarianism. And Muslims just flag his videos en masse, so he is inevitably in their sights. But it's not just him, though. I think people, Momo, it's not just him, though. People don't realize this, but a lot of apologetics and Christian preaching channels and ministries on YouTube, particularly ones that hold to an orthodox view of the Bible, they're under attack. I don't know how many of you are familiar with it, but there's a channel called the Bible Thumping Wingnut Network, and seemingly they do not post anything that would be construed as offensive by normal people. A lot of the time they repost excerpts from John MacArthur sermons. They post news are being shut down. Tim Hurd, Let me think about that. Tim Hurd. Oh yes, that's the yeah, that's the name of the host of. Sorry, thanks, Richard. Yeah, he's the host, but he's been struck. His channel has been struck. There have been videos on other Christian channels that have been taken down. Woke Preacher Clips is another great one. This channel re-uploads clips from sermons, quote unquote, by these wacky egalitarian pastors, so-called pastors, and and preachers who advocate critical race theory and all sorts of heretical and unbiblical views. That's what the content of the channel consists of, more or less. It's not there isn't even that much commentary. Occasionally, you'll see little insertions of the of uh, and analysis, but for the most part, it's simply reposting the uh, ridiculous sermon or excerpts from sermons from these people. And that channel has had videos taken down. So it seems to be a concerted effort. And David Wood recently posted a video where he actually he uploaded a video with excerpts from other channels that have been attacked by the YouTube nomenclatura. And so it's not just confined to David Wood or Acts 17 apologetics, although they're one of the main targets, again, because the UMA is so on any other platforms. Yeah, I'm actually on Twitter under my name at Gerard Perry 13, and I also have a Facebook page. Again, it's just my name. So and the Instagram page I have is at Kentile Floors 99. I don't post. The Instagram page is mostly post clips from Sunday worship from my church, and but for the most part, it's just photography from New York. So I'm on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Again, under my own name, except for Instagram, which is Kentile Floors 99. And I was actually on Six Eyes Radio, the Word of the King, the other day, giving my testimony. Curtis Yarvin. Curtis Yarvin is an interesting guy. I actually listened to his interview with Michael Malice recently. He's an interesting figure. I didn't see the Tucker interview, although it's kind of amazing that Tucker Carlson would interview Mencius Moldbach. That someone with a platform as large as him would interview someone, an NRX or former NRX person. It kind of shows you how the lines are blurring. One of the good things, although we're not, I mean, this obviously isn't a fun time to live in for a lot of reasons. One of the great things about the current year is that a lot of the gatekeepers of information are decaying and kind of imploding. I mean, when you see the amount of journalists who are losing their jobs, the ratings for these outlets like CNN and MSNBC and all of these quote unquote news outlets, which are really just propaganda outlets for multinational corporations. like MSNBC. I think well, I mean, they still have the letters in their name, so I think they're still owned by Microsoft. CNN is part of Time Warner, I believe. But they're basically just multinational corporations, and these networks are their vanity projects, their outlets to propagandize and indoctrinate. One of the good things about living right now is that you get to see these outlets, these desiccated outlets, kind of disappear. I mean, people just basically tuning them out for the most part. And I think that's one of the reasons you see such a huge only the airports and yeah. That's a good question. If you they run CNN constantly at the Staten Island ferry terminal, or I'm sorry, the Whitehall ferry terminal. So in Manhattan, if you take the Staten Island ferry, it's kind of like wallpaper. They they have CNN on in all of these food kiosks, and in the airports too. I don't do much travel by airline, but I'm sure it's on there too. It's a good question. If you eliminated it from those venues, how many people would actually be exposed to CNN? And the answer is probably very, very few people. But I mean, I think one of the reasons you see this renewed effort to turn the internet into a version of television is because it's one of the last media that you can actually access alternative information. And you see that this has only increased the efforts to censor, going after Act 17 apologetics and channels like that. It's just simply animated their desire to control information. And excuse me. And you see that they're just going to increase the effort to expel any sort of opinion or idea that's contrary to the narrative, to the new world order, as an Australian information czar helpfully labeled it the other day. So you're just going to see this more and more efforts to deplatform these people and to restrict alternative social media platforms like Rumble or Odyssey. And David Wood has mentioned now that the writing is on the wall, and that you can see YouTube becoming this pale simulacrum of these news media corporate institutions like CNN, like NBC, ABC, the Washington Post, the New York Times, and so forth. So you're just going to see more of that, and it's it's kind of funny to watch as their stranglehold, as they see their stranglehold decreasing. They're just going to amp up the efforts. It's going to get more and more crazy, which is why you see things becoming so dystopian. You're just bombarded with propaganda nonstop, particularly post COVID. You're bombarded with coordinated disinformation campaigns everywhere. Even what I just mentioned, the New World Order, this supposed gaffe by an Australian government official. There's now a bulletin on Twitter explaining why conspiracy theorists are misinterpreting what this woman said And uh, it's um and it's funny. Michael Kinsley, who was this nebbishy, annoying liberal who I think was one of the founders of Slate. He had a good quote though. He said a gaffe is when a politician tells the truth, and I think that was the case in this instance. It's a politician telling the truth. There is a new world order in the sense of this top-down efficiency expert campaign to manipulate and control speech, and that's what yeah, it's gotten to a it's gotten to a crazy point where you have and it's funny you should bring that up because it reminds me of a funny video mocking the reaction to Joe Rogan's swift recovery from COVID. And of course, he mentioned the fact that, well, he mentioned a lot of tools that he had in place to recover from COVID. He said he had an IV drip of vitamin C, and he was taking certain minerals and supplements. And he also said that he took ivermectin, which he was prescribed by actual doctors, not 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 chronically unhealthy talking heads like Brian Stelter, but actual medical physicians. He took horse dewormer. Yeah, and he brought up this fact that it's the way they're describing it is deliberately misleading. But the Freedom Tunes video was really funny. It kind of it had a clip of a caricature of Joe Rogan talking about this. And he says, "Yeah, you know, I was just talking about some treatments I'm taking," and it had this guy on the other end of the watching this video and saying, Joe Rogan, he's awful, and I hope he dies and someone else comes into the room and asks him what for recommending unapproved treatments. It's like, no, for telling people they should take care of their own health. That's the upshot of the video. That's the punchline, and it's true. A lot. I think a lot of these people were angry at him not just because he disobeyed the diktats of CNN, but because he told people that they should exercise control over their own health and their own well-being, which is the antithesis of the message you're getting from the powers that be. These people want you to inject a drug into your bloodstream that the makers of are not going to be liable. They're immunized from any lawsuit. You have side effects if you have counter indicators that that make you sick once you take this vaccine. So they don't have enough faith in this vaccine to stand behind it. If it actually was completely safe, they wouldn't worry about civil liabilities. Civil liability. They would be willing to, because there would be no downside. There would be no people coming down with there'd be no people having side effects from this vaccine and becoming ill because of it. So they want you to trust the Pfizer and AstraZeneca and Johnson and Johnson, and they want you to be barred. People who don't trust these companies and don't trust habitual liars like Anthony Fauci. They want those people to be banned from any type of physical fitness that takes place outdoors. So basically, you're going to be forbidden from using any gyms or fitness clubs. You're going to be prevented from going this this untested drug injected into your system. That's a good question, Irene. What happened? What happened to all of the liberals? They don't. They seem to have disappeared. And a great illustration of this is the ACLU. I don't know how many of you noticed this, but on Twitter, the official Twitter account for the ACLU released a tweet thread which basically justifies compelling people to be vaccinated. They encouraged states and municipalities and presumably the federal government to enforce compulsory vaccination. And their reasoning, if you could call it that, was that this would actually increase freedom. So this is the, see, as a I go into coughing jag. But this is the sort of inverted world we live in, where you have an ostensible civil liberties organization justifying stripping people of their civil liberties. Yeah, it's happening in Illinois, in San Francisco, in California, in King County. I think as an aside, I think that's one of the reasons you see such a vicious racist, reactionary campaign or counter campaign against Larry Elder and recall. Because if Larry Elder, on the off chance that the recall succeeds and that Larry Elder is elected, that the campaign and ballot stuffing gambits for the Democratic Party don't succeed, and that he's actually elected governor in this recall election, he's going to undo all of this. So if the largest state in the country reverses course on mask mandates, on compulsory vaccinations, it's going to destroy, it's going to send shockwaves across the country and destroy and fundamentally undermine the COVID it might be a fatal blow to their efforts. Not that I think they're going to stop trying, but I think it will be devastating. It'll be equivalent to the election of Donald Trump in 2016. And I think it would be fantastic. I'm not optimistic just because of the composition of California and the extent of electoral fraud there. So I'm not optimistic that that'll happen, but it would be a great thing to see. But yeah, this is happening all over the country. King County in Washington, the largest county that is initiating mandatory vaccinations. The candidates for mayor, I think Adams and Curtis Sliwa are the only candidates running right now. The only major candidates. There might be some minor party candidates. One of the Adams is going to be a disaster. I'm not sure if he'll be quite as disastrous as De Blasio, because to ruin New York City and squander the inheritance he was left by Rudy Giuliani. So I think Adams will be pretty bad, and I don't think he'll rescind any of the COVID lockdown measures. And that's one of the things. I don't think people understand that these laws, unless you do something like recall the governor and elect someone like Larry Elder, and that option is not is foreclosed to people who don't live in the West because they don't have things like initiatives and recall and ballot initiatives. That's really very much a Western phenomenon. But unless you do that, unless you evict these people from office, these measures are not going to be rescinded. They're going to be in place in perpetuity. Yeah, yeah. Adams was he. I mean, he claims that he was a beat cop, but I don't see any evidence of that in his career. Adams was really kind of an affirmative action hire when you look at it. I mean, when you look at his police career, you don't see any amazing collars. You see a lot of political activism and protests against police brutality, which is fine. But in terms of actual grunt work, like if someone's running on their record as a cop, they will usually cite a litany of accomplishments, rescuing people from committing suicide or intervening to prevent crime. But you don't see a lot of that on his record. You see a lot of political activism, a lot of kind of goofy public service videos, like the one where he's searching his son's bedroom, or like stuff like that. Yeah, and Sliwa, he's notorious for being a member of the Guardian Angels. So, but back to my point, these laws, you're not going to see these laws rescinded. They're going to exist for exist as long as there is a government. If there's no counter reaction, and that's the lesson. If you don't stand up and resist these laws, they're going to be there. There's no other option, which is why I think the recall initiative in California, the Larry Elder, again, I'm not overly optimistic. I'm just very cynical about these type of things. But that's one of the ways that you fight back. Anyway, it looks like we're reaching nearly a half hour, so I'm going to sign off. Thanks, Scott, Richard, Irene, Alejandro, Gary, everyone that was all of the lurkers out there. Hello. So yeah, I'm glad I got the chance to check in, and hope you all are stay safe, stay free, and like and share the video, and subscribe for those of you who aren't subscribed. And I will see you next time.